We'll start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Panchadasi, 5th chapter, Mahavakya Vichara. Mahavakyam is the essence of all the Upanishads, and it is this Mahavakyam which finally gives moksha. Moksha means freedom from limitations. The aim of Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads and Brahma Sutra is to liberate us from sorrow. This is a gigantic task taken up by all the scriptures. And the understanding of this particular chapter is very, very crucial for any seeker. What you understand here is reinforced again when you study the Upanishads or the Bhagavad Gita. What is the essence of Mahavakya? The essence of Mahavakya is to transform us from jivaha to sakshi. All of us take ourselves to be an individual in this universe. The scriptures teach us that we are not individuals in the universe, but our real nature is something totally different which you have never known before. And that is what is being described, it is being revealed in this chapter. So while studying this chapter, I always say, remember, this chapter is talking about my real nature. All of us are aware that we have this body. But nobody has come and told me that this body is a transitory phase. But my real swarupam, my real nature is Sat Chit Ananda. 3 words which are used in Taittiriya Upanishad. They are very, very famous. Even if you don't understand the meaning of these 3 words, but you listen, even if you're listening for the first time, doesn't matter. You have made a beginning of the journey. This journey is a very long journey. It can last in this birth, it can go on to the next birth, it can last several births, because this journey is of the human mind to discover its own nature. The human mind takes body after body. According to Shastra, according to the Veda, the human mind takes several births in different bodies. And it is this human mind which is in search. It is seeking something in this universe. It is seeking something through the body. What is that which the mind of a jiva is seeking in the world, continuously seeking, but it doesn't know that there is something higher, and how to reveal that secret is given in Panchadasi. Very beautiful section of Panchadasi. In fact, I would say this chapter 5 is probably the best chapter of the whole 15 chapters. According to me, it's probably the best, because it deals with a topic which is very, very profound, very unique. And Vidyaranya has his own style of presenting it and revealing the truth. This chapter consists of 8 verses, and it deals with the 4 Mahavakyas. Pragyanam Brahma is the first one. Tattvamasi is the second one. Aham Brahmasmi is the third one. I am Atma Brahma. These are four Mahavakyas from 4 different Upanishads, from 4 different Vedas. What is the purpose of taking all of them together? You don't find this type of text anywhere else. In one chapter, Swami Vidyaranya, who is a teacher, is basically a Advaita Acharya. During his time, I'm sure he must have had several disciples. And probably he felt that getting them all together and presenting it is probably a profound way to reveal the ultimate essence of the Veda. Vakya Vritti is another text which Shankaracharya has written. You can refer to that also, where the Mahavakyas are explained. Once you have understood reasonably well this particular chapter, then it becomes easier for you to absorb the content of all other chapters. This topic of Mahavakya is dealt in almost all the texts, whether it is Vichara Sagara, whether it is Naishkarmya Siddhi, Shruti Sara Samuddaranam. These are all different texts. And a common thing which we find in all these texts is Mahavakya. Because ultimately the teacher wants to reveal this oneness between me and this entire universe. There is something common. What is that common factor? The universe is represented as paramatma. I am represented as jivatma. Is there something common between the jivatma and the paramatma? That common factor is called as oneness, aikyam in Sanskrit. And that oneness is Sat Chit Ananda. That oneness is pragyanam, consciousness. That oneness is pure existence. That oneness is limitlessness. All this describe the ultimate nature of a jiva and the ultimate nature of paramatma. Only at the highest level you will find this oneness. As a jiva with the individual body, there is no oneness. You are different, I am different, your children are different, your neighbors are different. So differences are there. And of course, the Lord is different because he has got supreme powers. My power is very, very tiny, but then compared to the Lord has got limitless power. So at the superficial level, which the sense organs perceive, you will always see the difference because the sense organs are designed to see differences. But what is this oneness which all the Upanishads declare? That oneness is the substratum, the adhisthana, from where springs this entire universe. That adhisthana, that substratum is described in all these 8 verses. With this short introduction, I will now begin the first verse, and slowly we will try to understand what this oneness means.
Yene Shrunotidam Yene Kshate Shrunotidam Jigrati Vyakaroti Cha Jigrati Vyakaroti Cha Swadvasvadu Vijanati Swadvasvadu Vijanati Tatprajnanamudiritam Tatprajnanamudiritam.
This chanting you have heard is from Vijaya, one of our participants. She lives in Texas, and she has done this chanting. Almost all the Panchadasi verses, chapters which I have taken, she is the one who has given the voice to it. Yene shata shrunotidam jigrati vyakaroti cha. What is it by which a man sees shrunoti? Shrunoti means he hears. Ikshate means he sees. Jigrati means smells. Vyakaroti means he speaks. Then the second line says, how does a human being distinguish the sweet, the bitter tastes in his tongue? It is not a question like in Keno Upanishad, but here it is an answer. This is an indirect definition of Atma. What is the indirect definition? That by which a person sees, hears, smells, speaks, distinguishes the tastes, is Atma. That Atma is pragyanam. Pragyanam means consciousness. So very beautifully, Vidyaranya summarizes, right in the first verse, he says, and he reveals the truth. See, each and every verse of this 8 verses is revealing Atma. At the individual level, Brahman at the cosmic level. There is a power behind the eyes, behind the sense organs, behind our mind, behind our organ of speech, behind our hands, behind our legs. In short, there is one power which controls this body. That power is called as pragyanam, consciousness, awareness. See, awareness, you may find it is very, very loose term in English. But then when you say pragyanam, it has got a different connotation. The connotation is it is a power. It denotes the substratum of this whole universe. So that by which a man sees, hears, smell, these three factors represent jnana indriyas. That by which a person speaks represents karma indriyas. Speaking is only one of the actions. Grasping, walking, running, all these are all different types of action. But here, as a representation, speaking is taken because throughout our life, all of us, we speak. Then they take the example of taste. Now, taste is in the tongue. It is also a jnana indriyam. The tongue has got two functions. It is a jnana indriyam and it is also karma indriyam. When it is tasting, it is jnana indriyam. When it is speaking, it is karma indriyam. So for a tongue, there is the mind behind the tongue which discriminates the different tastes. The background to this verse is pragyanam Brahma. And that pragyanam Brahma comes in Aitareya Upanishad. In Aitareya Upanishad, how is the build-up? How does the Upanishad build up this entire revelation of Atma? So Vidyaranya takes the help of the first verse of the third chapter, first section, first verse. And what is that verse saying? The verse says, who is that, what is that factor, or who is that one whom we worship as this self? The self means it is a power. Who is the one whom we worship as God? Which self are you talking about? That is a second question. Is it by which one sees, one hears, one smells? Or is it by which one utters the speech? Or is it the one which decides whether a particular taste is good or bad? So either it is the jnana indriyams, the karma indriyams, or the antakarana. So these are three, all of you have done the Tattvabodha. So you will remember that all these three are indriyams. They are the subtle body. And it is called as idam, this, because it is different than aham. So idam means it is an objectified entity. I see. My seeing power is objectified by sakshi. My hearing power is identified, objectified by the sakshi. So I am the seer, I am the experiencer, but what I see through the instrument is objectified. Through the jnana indriyams, through the karma indriyams, and through the antakarana. All these three are objects of one single power. The power is one, but it expresses as knowledge in the jnanendriyas. Knowledge of color, knowledge of sound, knowledge of taste, knowledge of touch. Something is soft, something is hard. How do I know this? When I touch a flower, a petal, I can know immediately it is a very soft substance. When I touch a stone, I know it is hard. So the feeling of touch goes to the mind, and the mind, together with the intellect, uses another power which is called as consciousness. And then the intellect judges. So the power behind the mind is pragyanam. Pragyanam means awareness, consciousness. So this pragyanam it expresses as different powers in different instruments. Like, for example, one electricity expresses as fan, and it rotates the fan. It expresses in a refrigerator. It functions in a refrigerator, makes things cold. The same electricity can drive a car through a battery. The same electricity can light up a bulb, illumination. So the power is one electricity, but the expressions are many. Similarly, pragyanam is one. That pragyanam, that power expresses through different organs or through instruments. And then it experiences different objects in the universe. In the first chapter of Aitareya Upanishad, the Upanishad starts with this particular mantra. Om Atma va idam eka eva agre asid nanyat kinchana mishat. In the beginning, before the universe was created, this power, pragyanam, Atma, alone existed. Nothing else was there before this. What does this mean? Atma or pragyanam is the karanam. It is the jagat karanam, from which the entire world has come. How do you define the Atma? In two ways. Sopadikam, nirupadikam. What is sopadikam? So, sopadikam means with upadhi. Upadhi sahitaha. Nirupadikam means what? Upadhi rahitaha. Upadhi means what? It is a conditioning. Like the electricity is conditioned by a fan, electricity is conditioned by a bulb. Similarly, this consciousness is conditioned in different bodies. The conditioned self is the jiva, which we normally know. When we say aham, I am, it is this conditioned self which is with the body, with the mind, and with the sense organs. But this self can exist by itself without the body, mind, and the sense organs. And that is called as nirupadikam. Without the upadhi, without the medium of the body, mind, sense organs, this consciousness alone can exist. That is revealed by the Upanishads. That is the spiritual study. So nirupadikam is without the medium, and that is what is called as unconditioned self. This, I'm going very slowly so that each one of you can understand step by step how this revelation takes place. Now I'll give you an example. You tell me whether in the waking state, is it sopadikam or nirupadikam? The answer is sopadikam. In the waking state, do I experience with the body, with the mind, with the sense organs? Yes. So this Atma is there along with the instruments. In the dream state, is it sopadikam or nirupadikam? Sopadikam. But which instrument is there in the dream state? The mind. What happens to the sense organs? They are all passive. So the waking state and the dream state is sopadikam with medium of body, mind, senses. Let's go to the sleep state. In the sleep state, is it nirupadikam or sopadikam? Do you experience your body? No. Do you experience your senses? No. Do you experience your mind? No. So is it nirupadikam? Is it without the upadhis? Yes. So when it is without the upadhi of body, mind, and sense organs, what is it called? Unconditioned self. Unconditioned Atma. So what are the two types of Atma which we all experience? Conditioned Atma, conditioned consciousness with the body, mind, senses in the waking or the dream, unconditioned consciousness or awareness in the sleep state. Brahma Upanishad, Prashno Upanishad, directly there are questions asked, and the Guru says, your nature, real nature in sleep is what you should know as your eternal nature. All of you experience that or not? Of course, I am existing. I am existing and I am experiencing that. It is not called as an experience because there is no triputi involved. There is no subject, object, instrument involved. But we exist. That existence, take your mind to that pure existence right now. All of us can do it because that is our nature. Nirupadikam Atma is my real pure self. If that is a real self, what about the body? Body is born. Body may go away, the gross body. The subtle body may also go away. Every day in sleep, I experience there is no mind. I experience myself without the mind. So do I lack the experience of the self? No. because that happens to be my nature. Nature means it always is there, eternal self. It doesn't change. For this creation, there are two types of karanam. One karanam means cause, is a changing cause. Another karanam is the changeless cause. I'm taking you a little bit deeper. Okay, I have explained to you what is consciousness. Indirect definition of consciousness is that by which the eyes are seeing, the ears are hearing, is that consciousness, because consciousness cannot be defined directly. The sense organs and the mind are created for external world, to understand the external world. They are not created for the internal. They cannot look inside. Okay? So what do we conclude from this discussion now? Pragyanam Brahma Asti. There is one consciousness which exists. This consciousness is Brahma. Is called as Brahman. Antakaranam is connected to all the jnana indriyams. It gives a combined, coordinated knowledge. So the knowledge I get through the sense organs is one type of knowledge. But there is another knowledge which is never changing. And that knowledge is the knowledge of pragyanam. I am, I am, I am. That I am never changes. But that I am is pure consciousness, pure self. But it keeps on changing when the body changes, the mind changes, sense organs change. The sweetness of sugar, banana, jackfruit, mango, honey, all of them are different. How do we know this? Because there is an intellect behind the sense organs. And behind the intellect is this consciousness. So there is a conditioned you which is called as pramata. The knower of the world is pramata. This knower is associated with sense organs. Sense organs of knowledge and sense organs of action. And also antakaran. So pramata means it's a title given to consciousness, the pure consciousness, when it is with upadhi, when it is with a medium of body. So consciousness plus the senses is equal to pramata. Suppose you say, I am a hearer, I am a seer. So are you Atma or are you Pramata? The emphasis is Pramata. But without the Atma, can the Pramata exist? No. Because Atma is the power behind the Pramata. Behind the senses, the real Atma is this consciousness. So this pramata, the experiencer, sees, hears, smells, tastes. It grabs different things. This consciousness, together with the mind, is that pramata. And with the help of the mind and the sense organs, a jiva conducts all his transactions. What is the two main transactions? What is it called? It is called as karta bhokta. Karta means doer. A doer can smell, a doer can hear, a doer can run, a doer can use the sense organs and also organs of action. What is a bhokta? Bhokta means a person who is an enjoyer of the objects of the universe. So we are always either a karta, a doer of action, or we are enjoyer of the world. So a jiva, that is how an intellect is defined. Intellect is nothing but it is karta bhokta. Always judging whether there is, this is good, this is not good, this is bad. All that is the job of the intellect. But the principle which makes the instruments function is called as this pragyanam. What are the three factors for knowledge? The one, we need the senses, without which I cannot have knowledge of the world. Pancha jnana indriyas, right? So without the sense organs, what can I perceive anything? No. The five sense objects cannot be perceived. That is the primary factor. What is the second factor? The mind. The mind on its own can have emotions and thoughts. Sankalpa Shakti. The faculty of thinking. So the mind is a very important factor, and one can use this factor to get knowledge. It could be different knowledge. It could be knowledge of your emotions. It could be knowledge of judgment, right and wrong. So that is the second factor. What is the third factor for knowledge? The third factor is this power of consciousness, or the pragyanam. So this first verse is defining what is this power, pragyanam, and what is the role of pragyanam in all our transactions. The mind which is imbued with this consciousness alone knows the object. So when we wake up in the morning, what happens? The mind is imbued with the power of consciousness. With that power in the mind, through the sense organs, we function in the world. A pot has got a small space inside the pot. That pot, the space is called as, I'm using this pot example to ultimately reveal to you the nature of consciousness. There are two words I'm going to use, upahitam and upadhi. I will explain that. Once we finish these discussions, you will understand the whole example. So a pot has got space inside, and the space is called as ghata upahita akasha. Space enclosed in the pot is this upahita akasha, enclosed. Upahita means enclosed. So inside the pot, it is pot enclosed space. Outside the pot, the space is there or not? Yes. That is limitless space. Unconditioned space. It is not limited by the walls of the pot. What is the space which is limited by the pot is called as upadhi. The space which is enclosed is called as upahitam. Upadhi is a container, the space is the upahitam, which is enclosed, the content. So there is a sambandha between the space and the container. That is one set of factors. Then we are going to have another example. And that example is the example of a color in a cloth. Suppose you take a yellow color. The yellow color pervades the cloth. And then we say it is a yellow cloth. So this viseshanam, which is an attribute, it permeates the entire cloth. And when this example is taken, we say this is viseshana, viseshya sambandha. Attribute and the substance, the relationship is called as viseshana, viseshya sambandha. The sambandha between the pot space and the pot is called as upadhi and upahita. These are two. Just you try to understand the four terms. Because when we use consciousness, then we'll use these terms. Upadhi is not a viseshana. Viseshana means it is not a attribute. Body is a upadhi. It is not affected by the space. Prana is a upadhi. Senses are upadhi, like the pot, which is in which there is space. The space is not affected by the pot. Similarly, consciousness is in the upadhi, but it is not affected by the upadhi. That is what we are trying to arrive at. Senses, consciousness pervades the senses, but it is not affected by the senses. Chidabhasa means reflected consciousness. These are all upadhis. They are the medium. See, in the case of a color, the color pervades and permeates and it changes the cloth. Consciousness is like the space. It pervades the pot, but it doesn't change the pot. Without changing, without affecting the medium, it exists. So the relationship between consciousness and body or the mind or the prana is a very important sambandha. That sambandha is what we are trying to understand. It is the upadhi upahita sambandha. It is not the viseshana, viseshya sambandha. It is not like the color and the cloth, but it is like the space and the pot. It's a very subtle topic. You try to understand with the example, then you will be clear. But you should understand what we are ultimately using the example. What are we trying to do? We are trying to establish the relationship between consciousness and the body, consciousness and the mind, consciousness and the sense organs. That is why space in a pot and the space outside, that example is very, very important. And this is how you understand what is consciousness, how is it pervading the whole universe. This particular term, upadhi and upahita chaitanyam, is very important. Another very important point which you should understand is this consciousness is by remaining in that upadhi, it is the karanam. That karanam is not changing cause. It's not like the milk changing to become the yogurt. It is not like the, it is not, there's many examples, but it is like, for example, it is the gold remaining as the gold, only the name and form is changing, but gold is still the ultimate substance behind a ring. Behind a chain, what is there? Gold is there. So similarly, consciousness without changing, it is called as, in technical language, it is called as vivarta karana. That is another point you should remember in this context. So body is the adhishtanam, it is the substratum. Upadhi of indriyas, antakaranam, chidabhasa, they are all permeated by this consciousness. There's a very beautiful verse in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha pratyek vidam vividasya pratyek cheshtaha daivam chaipatra panchamam. The same topic is discussed in Bhagavad Gita, where it says that the seed, that means the body, the ego, the organs of knowledge, and the organs of action, all of them are having consciousness as the substratum. There it includes the presiding deity of sense organs also. That is the fifth factor. So all these five factors, what is the adhishtanam? The adhishtanam means the ultimate substratum is consciousness. The ultimate substratum, body, mind, prana, senses, is what? Atma. So prana, mind, senses, the reflected consciousness are called as upadhi. For what? For the upahita chaitanyam, for the enclosed consciousness, these are called as upadhi. Upadhi means the medium in which they operate. What is upadhi for all this space, permeating space? Space remains intact. It is changeless in all the upadhis. In the big pot, the space is the same. Space doesn't change in a small pot, big pot, medium pot, yellow pot, black pot, red pot. The space is the same. It may be bigger in size because the walls are accommodating bigger space. But space as space doesn't change. Similarly, consciousness remains intact. In your mind, there is consciousness. In my mind, there is consciousness. In your hands, there is a consciousness. In my hands, there is a consciousness. In your tongue, there is consciousness. In my tongue, there is consciousness. In your ear, there is consciousness. In my ears, in my speech, there is consciousness. Consciousness is the same. It pervades the whole creation, but the instruments are different. That is the point we should understand in this first verse. What is that power is one thing, which is called as pragyanam. How does it function without changing is the second lesson we get in this mantra. See, all these factors are very important for us to realize the nature of Atma. Pragyanam is that consciousness which has the upadhi called as eyes, ears, tongue, mind, all that. So that is the original consciousness which lends consciousness to the mind. One electricity lends power to fan, refrigerator, mic, car. Similarly, one consciousness lends its power to all the sense organs. Pragyanam by itself is called as witness consciousness. Prakarshena jnanam. Jnanam with excellence. It remains unmodified without any vikara. So pure consciousness does not get modified. It remains as consciousness all the time. By knowing this consciousness as my nature, I can say I am eternal. I am not affected by the body, in which there is consciousness, but I am now able to distinguish the power behind the body and the gross body. That is how ultimately I am receiving this knowledge. There is a knower in us which undergoes modification, and that knower is the pramata. That pramata means what? It is the mind together with consciousness. What about the original consciousness, which is called as pragyanam? That does not undergo any modification. Okay, so far, see how deep this subject is. From slowly from the ears, eyes, mind, sense organs, organs of action, we are coming down to the level of the power behind them. And now we are saying the power, that knowing principle is of two types. One is the changeless and another is the changing. The changing knower is called as the pramata. It is called as the ego I. The ego I is the lower knowledge because it is changing. What are the factors connected with the ego I? It is lower knowledge. The change is involved in knowership. For example, the eyes are seeing something. After some time, they'll see something different, different colors, different objects, different forms. They keep on changing. So the eyes, the ears, the tongue, the taste, all of them are changing knower with modifications, with vikara. In Sanskrit, modification means vikara. So this karya karana sanghata of panchabhutas has got a knowership in it, and that knower is the ego, the I. When I say I know Sanskrit, I don't know Japanese, I know English, I don't know Tamil. That I is called as pramata. What is sakshi then? Sakshi is the knowing principle behind this ego I, without which this ego I cannot function. It doesn't exist also, like in sleep. In sleep, I am a sakshi. In the waking, I am waker. In the dream, I am a dreamer. Pragyanam is the changeless knower. It is the higher knowledge. It is because it is changeless, it is called as witness. It is a knowledge without individuality. I am a man, I am a woman. That is what ego, that is a lower knowledge. It is the pramata. I exist in sleep as sakshi, as witness. That is what changeless consciousness. So are we a changing knower or a changeless consciousness? We are both. Primarily, we are changeless knower. We become changing knower when the body-mind instrument is available for perception. Nyapti Swarupa, without the vikara, without the modification, it cannot be even verbalized. This Atma cannot be verbalized, but it can be known in this fashion. That is why in Keno Upanishad, the teacher, Guru says, I don't know how to teach you also. Because this Atma is not available for verbalization. So the teacher, but he is able to convey it because it is not an object of the sense organs. If it is an object, we can easily describe it. It is blue in color, yellow in color, red in color. It is 5 inches. It is small. It is big. Or if it's a function, he's a driver, he's a painter, he's a singer. We can explain all that. But Atma is attributeless, sakshi. And that is the ultimate karanam. Vivarta karanam. Vivarta means what? Changeless cause of this universe. So what did we learn today? We learned today there is a changeless cause. There is a changing cause. The changing cause is the body, mind, sense organs. But the changeless cause is consciousness, awareness, sakshi. What do you mean by karyam and karanam? Karanam means it is a product of 5 elements. It does the function of knowledge. Karanam, senses are karanam. Mind is a karanam, instrument. What is the what is the effect of the Panchabhutas? Panchabhutas are karanam. What is the effect? The body. Because they are made up of Panchabhutas. So this knower called as the pramata, the experiencer, through the modifications of knowledge, becomes either happy or sad, or he is indifferent to both happiness and sadness. This inner knowledge is called as pragyanam. It is the awareness principle in all of us. It was through this awareness I know that my intellect knows German language or it doesn't know German language. I am sad today means it is a changing knower. It is a reflected consciousness together with the mind. I am existing in sleep. It is pragyanam Brahma. It is inherently felt. All of us feel I exist. That feeling is called as pragyanam. It is a deeper essence in me. It cannot be thought. It is not even silence. Sound can be represented and said without sound is silence. But the pragyanam cannot be described at all. This pure awareness is pragyanam. It is a substratum of the knower, known, and the knowing instrument. Never changes, unchanging presence. Cannot be known through the mind, but it remains in deep sleep as pure consciousness. Changeless knower of the 3 states of consciousness, which is described as turiyam in Mandukya Upanishad. And this turiyam, this pure knower Pure consciousness is the subject matter of all the Upanishads of Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra. Okay, so step by step, we have gone trying to understand this nature of pure knowledge, which is called as pragyanam. I will continue this next verse, the next page, that is page number 24, next week. I hope you got a glimpse of that Atma today. Remember two words, sopadikam, nirupadikam. Sopadikam, nirupadikam. Contemplate on sopadikam and nirupadikam. It's a guarantee your mind will reach Atma. Two words in Sanskrit. Sopadikam means with the medium. Nirupadikam means without the medium. Okay? Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudacchade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Does anybody have a question in today's talk?
Shikharji.
Yeah, Preeti, tell me.
Yes. So actually this pramata
Yeah.
Is the sort of like
the ego.
Ego, yes. That is cause of this illusion of individuality.
Correct. That's correct. This individuality comes because of the ego I.
Ego.
Yes. And this ego is born when the waking state and it goes off in the sleep state.
And this pramata also, I mean, sort of like travels.
Yes, it travels from one state to another. That's correct. You see, it is a waker with the physical body. The same pramata becomes the dreamer. The same pramata becomes the sleeper. So it undergoes three changes.
You didn't smell, you never smell. You don't smell anything, you didn't smell.
So, Preeti, is it clear? The ego I becomes the waker
Yes.
I, it becomes a dreamer I, it becomes the sleeper I. But what doesn't change is the sakshi I. Sakshi I is always there. Without the sakshi I, there cannot be a waker I or a dreamer I. So, we always have to remember that I am a knower principle, I am a conscious principle. And this consciousness, I have to learn to distinguish from the sakshi. Sakshi, you see, sakshi is something which is always there, pure existence. It cannot be even verbalized. I cannot even say. That is why in Keno Upanishad, in the third mantra of Keno Upanishad, the first chapter, the teacher says, I don't know how to describe this Atma. I don't know how, because this Atma cannot be described. You see, what can you say of something which is attributeless? It is without gunas. Everything with guna we can explain with the help of words. But Atma, how can I explain? So he says that I don't know how to teach also. How to teach this Atma. Then is he is trying to stun the student, and the student wakes up. Suddenly he realizes, oh, there is something which is there, but which cannot be described because it is not an object. It is the subject. So basically, you should understand and claim that as my real nature. That's all. The whole Vedanta is nothing but dropping the notion that I am this body. Dropping the notion I am not this mind. Automatically, you will wake up to your real nature. That's all. Is it clear?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Shekharji, thank you so much. You touched upon turiya. Can you please explain what a little bit more? I was not very clear about that.
Okay, turiyam is a technical name for Atma in Mandukya Upanishad. So in Mandukya Upanishad, they use the term turiyam. Turiyam means it is the fourth state, but it is the state, it is fourth state because it is not waker, dreamer, sleeper. See, we all know I am a waker, we all know I am a sleeper, we all know I dream. But turiya means it is sakshi. It is the witness. It is the fourth stage of a jiva. Now that fourth stage is not really the fourth stage, but it is the common name, common state from which the waker, dreamer, and sleeper, they arise and they resolve. So it is a name of consciousness, like pragyanam. In Aitariya Upanishad, pragyanam is the name of consciousness. In Mundak Upanishad, aksharam is the name of Brahman. In Keno Upanishad, it is Shrotrasya Shrotram. That is the name of Atma. In Mandukya Upanishad, the Upanishad describes the three states. And it says that the waker I, the dreamer I, and the sleeper I, they are relative names of one consciousness, which is called as turiyam. Turiyam is only a name, it's only a technical name. In particularly, it is a very, very important technical term used by Shankaracharya when he wants to describe this Atma. This Atma is called as Turiya. Okay, so Turiyam is nothing but Atma. Very good. Thank you.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste, Ajita. Yeah.
Namaste. Yeah. Will you please define this pramata once again?
Okay.
Pramata. Yes.
Okay.
I
Pramata,
have a little bit doubt.
I'll explain to you. Pramata means knower. Okay, Pramata is a common name. For example, I am a seer, I am a hearer, I am a taster, I am a smeller. So this, when I have to say that I am all this, how do I say I am a knower? Knower of what? The different objects of the sense organs, which is called as pramata. Pramata, pramanam, prameyam. Knower,
Okay.
known, and the knowing instrument.
Non things.
Correct.
The non through instruments.
Correct.
we are.
That's correct. The
Yeah.
knowledge, when I am the knower, I have knowledge. I have prama. And I have the knowledge of prameyam, the objects of the sense of organs. So the knowingness is attached to the sense organs, attached to the mind.
Yes.
That knowingness is called as pramata. It is the ego.
Yeah,
But I am also a knower in the sleep state without the sense organs.
yes.
I am a knower in the sleep state. I know I exist.
Yes.
So what is that knower called? That knower is called as sakshi.
It is pure existence.
Yes, that is pure nature of mind. And the pramata is an adulterated nature of mind. It is a mixed up nature of mind.
Thank
So
you. Thanks a lot.
I exist as what? Always, eternally as the sakshi.
Yeah.
I exist as the knower in the waking state. I exist as the knower in the dream state. I exist as the knower in the sleep state. In the sleep state, I do not know the world.
Yeah.
So the knowing, the knower, pramata is a relative knower. It keeps on changing. Waker, dreamer, sleeper. Again, waker, dreamer, sleeper. Again, waker, dreamer, sleeper. That knower, which is changing knower, is called as pramata. It is knowing the prameyam, the objects of the sense organs, objects of the universe. And it is knowing through the instrument, which is called as pramanam. So, knower, knowing instrument, and the knowing objects, known objects. All these three is called triputi. See, when the Sanskrit, they use common names. For example, the knower is experiencer. Experiencer means he can be a seer, he can be a hearer, he can be a smeller, he can be a taster. Okay, so it's a common name. Are you clear now? Okay. Anybody else has a question?
Shekharji, we can also say mind with reflected consciousness as pramata, isn't it?
Yes. Pramata is also known as mind. See, the sense organs by themselves are not the knowers.
Yeah.
Unless until the mind is present, then only they become the knower. So basically, it's a reflected consciousness in the sense organs, which is the knower.
Yeah.
And a reflected consciousness always is together with mind. So you can call knower as the mind, you can call knower as the sense organs, you can call knower as the reflected consciousness. In different contexts, they call the same pramata as different knowers. Sometimes the mind is emphasized. Sometimes the sense organs are emphasized. Sometimes only the eyes are emphasized. Chakshusha chakshuhu, shrotrasya shrotram. So the knowing principle is this pramata. And pramata is always, you're correct, it's always reflected consciousness. And without the reflection, what is that knower called? Without the reflection, it is called as sakshi. Witness consciousness. This witness consciousness can exist without the sakshyam. Sakshi is a term given when there is something called to be witnessed. Suppose there is ajnanam, there is ignorance in a jiva. So it is sakshyam in the karana shariram, in the sleep state. Suppose the ignorance goes away, then who are you? It is not sakshi. Then it is Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi means my ignorance also has gone. There is no more ignorance. There is no more ignorance about my nature. I am pure consciousness when you say and you own up. It is not a sakshi. Sakshi is with reference to the sakshyam. A sakshyam is a waker, dreamer, or sleeper. But without the sakshi also, I am existing. That is what is called as turiya or Brahman. That is, these are just technical terms. If you understand the fineness of it, you will reach the ultimate truth. And the ultimate truth is hidden in our intellect. Don't forget that. It is not somewhere outside and all that. It is in my own intellect. I have to go deeper and deeper within and come to the essence, the inner essence, antar-atman. The inner essence is without any division. There is no division in it because it is not with Triputi. It is without the Triputi. Without the knower, knowing instrument, and the known objects of the world, this Turiyam, this Brahman, always is eternal. It is existing, and this is beyond time. There is no time in Atma. Atma is timeless. There is no space in Atma. There is nothing inside Atma. It is limitlessness. It is the consciousness from which the entire world of objects, entire time is born in that consciousness. That is why, knowing this consciousness, I lose my sense of individuality. And that consciousness is the only source of security, peace, and happiness. Knowing that consciousness, all my karmas end. Sanchita karma, agadi karma, prarabdha karma, everything is burnt. And I own up my real nature and I say, I am nitya muktaha. I was never bound. I thought I was bound to this body. I thought I am this body. That is a mistaken notion in the intellect. That notion is completely wiped out when you come to this study of Mahavakya. When the intellect travels in this direction, automatically this will happen. I'm giving you a guarantee. This is the promise of the Upanishads. Come and study the Mahavakya and become free. Free from all notions. See, it is the mind which causes our limitation. Therefore, what do I say? This mind is mithya. It is an appearing entity. It is not real. Once the mind is negated as an appearance in consciousness, and I own this consciousness as my real nature, I am free. Here and now, there has been no birth, no death for consciousness, but there is birth of the body, there is birth of the mind, and there is ignorance which is always attached to this body and mind. But I am free now because Aham Brahmasmi, pragyanam Brahma is very clear to me now. I've heard it many times, but I've never digested that knowledge as myself. Chapter 5 of Panchadasi helps me to digest that knowledge and own up that knowledge as my Swarupa. Swarupa means what? It is my nature. I am always that. I am always that. Therefore, in your meditation, in your free time, I always tell myself, I am Atma. What is the difference between Aham and I am? Aham means I am means this Atma. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Atma Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi means the seeker in the seat of meditation, in his deep within his intellect, he realizes, and there is a voice which comes and tells him, Aham Brahma Asmi. Full stop. After that, there is nothing else. I am Atma Brahma means what? This Atman is Brahman. This Atman which the teacher taught me. I have understood. This Atman is what? It is Brahman. There is a oneness between Atma and Brahman. And what is that oneness? The oneness is this consciousness in this body is the consciousness which is pervading the whole universe. That is the oneness which the Mahavakyam is revealing to me. The spiritual study does not stop by knowing Aham Brahmasmi, but the spiritual study stops once you know this Brahman is the same, this Atma is the same Jagat Karanam Brahma. Therefore, in the sleep state, what happens? I am identified with the ultimate cause of the whole universe, and then only what happens? I break open all the knots in my understanding of myself. I'm no longer limited. You see, as long as I keep telling I'm inside this body, I'm inside this body, my journey is not complete. My journey is complete when I say the spot space realizes that the space is the same outside and inside. The consciousness inside this body realizes it is the same consciousness which is pervading the whole universe. It doesn't mean that tomorrow morning when I see this body, I will not recognize this body. No, I will still recognize this body. The body will still undergo and do its role. The role play will go on automatically. Don't worry about it. Only thing is, you will realize you're not the role player, but you are the sakshi. The knowledge of Aham Brahmasmi remains with you throughout your life. The impact of the worldly life reduces more and more. Your fear goes away. Your limitations. I am suffering, and this I which is attached to the body learns to drop the body and be one with that consciousness. Okay, very divine knowledge. And anyway, we'll be studying all these 4 Mahavakyams. We have just started with the first one. It has given us so much of knowledge about this oneness. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, if there are no other questions, I'll close today. We'll continue next week with the same first verse. there are a few more slides. I will explain that. This topic is a very subtle topic, and it's a very deep topic. So your intellect will get sharpened the moment you go through the Mahavakya Vichara, the analysis of the Mahavakya. It will sharpen your intellect to understand, and you will find that you're able to think more. Your mind has gone more deeper. Your knowledge has become deeper. You'll find that when you study this the Mahavakyam again and again, I mean, I'm introducing you this Mahavakyam now. Maybe after 2 years, when you study the same Mahavakyam, you'll find that your intellect has been able to go a little bit more deeper. It's like climbing a mountain, like the Himalayas. You know, you go to the 5,000 feet, then you take a pause. You go to the 10,000, you take a pause. Again, before reaching the summit, you take different pauses. And once you reach the summit, you have a total picture. So similarly, this Mahavakya Vichara, it starts very gradually. But you'll find that as you listen more and more, your understanding of this subject matter, Atma, becomes deeper. Becomes very deep. Because the Upanishadic mantras, they will open up that Atma for you. Shrotrasya Shrotram. The moment you hear Shrotrasya Shrotram, the eye of the eye, immediately your knowledge, your intellect will go straight into that Atma. And it will start seeking that Atma. Automatically this will happen, because that is the power of the verses. The power of this Veda is, it can take you deep inside your conscious level. There is nothing else in the world which can take you deeper to your consciousness. Your external world, you can go miles and miles into the world. But how to go deep into yourself? That is only through the study of scriptures. Okay? Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Yeah.
Hari Om.